keeping you up to date. Mode 96.1 News.
Family and friends of New Zealander Warwick White are mourning his tragic death. The 48-year-old adventurer, businessman and triathlete was stabbed on a city street in Budapest, Hungary. He died on the way to hospital. Son-in-law Dylan Thompson says he will be sorely missed. He says this is a nightmare for the family and they are expecting to bring the body home as soon as it is released by police. The New Zealand branch of the International Triathlon Union are saddened by the loss.
Warwick was in Ecuador, however he was part of the Global Championships in Budapest, and it was really shocked the New Zealand team that was over in Budapest, and our sympathies go out to the family on behalf of the triathlon community in New Zealand.
Spokesman Carl Jackson was, as he was known to his friends, had been in Budapest representing Ecuador at the World Triathlon Championships and was due to return home later this year to climb Mount Cook. Dylan Thompson says they have had no confirmation of an arrest, however have been told by the Hungarian police that they are talking with two suspects. The elusive King Country gunman is now in custody. Te Rangi Trangman was captured early this morning outside a Te Anga tavern, where he surrendered without incident. The search for Te Rangi Trangman began on Sunday night. He is accused of attacking a neighbour and threatening a woman with a gun before an attempted robbery in Waitomo. Almost 250,000 students are without their teachers today, as around 16,000 union members are striking. The Union Post-Primary Teachers Association has exempted Canterbury schools from the strike, but around 300 schools across the country are affected. The strike is over stalled negotiations on a pay rise agreement. The PPTA want a 4% rise, but the Ministry of Education is offering 1.5% this year and another 1% next. The strike is the first in 8 years. A 33-year-old man charged with the possession of materials used to manufacture methamphetamine is appearing in the Christchurch District Court today. Detective Senior Sergeant Brian Archer says the man was found yesterday morning out the back of an Avonside Drive property mixing suspicious chemicals. Police have cordoned off the house and the environment until an examination by forensic staff has been completed. And in sport, Manly Sea Eagles winger Tony Williams' international future is up in the air after being courted by 3 countries for the end-of-year tests. Williams had previously played for Tonga over the last 2 years, but has been named in a New Zealand training squad for their end-of-year tests, and was yesterday named in an Australian Prime Minister's 13. Williams' manager Isaac Moses says Williams is available for Australia, but if he misses out on the Australian Four Nations squad, he will turn out for Tonga against Samoa. But New Zealand Rugby League CEO Jim Doyle says Williams had assured Kiwis coach Stephen Kearney of his availability via text. The Kiwis squad for the Four Nations will be named after the NRL Grand Final in 3 weeks' time. That's the latest in news and sport. Jennifer Savage for In Focus.
The state of emergency has now been extended to tomorrow midday for Canterbury. Earlier this morning, I asked Waimakiriri District Mayor Ron Keating how effective the state of emergency was and why we needed it.
Well, the state of emergency is essential to give powers to the civil emergency controllers to deal with issues that normally would require public consultation or is outside the prerogative of council to act in a certain manner.
So it sort of speeds everything up.
Yes, it speeds things up, and some issues may require public consultation. Now, when you're in the state of emergency, then you need to be very proactive. There may be lives at risk or property endangered or whatever.
So it's 11 days on now. It's been extended for 1 day, I understand. Why do we need to move out of it and move on?
Well, in some respects, the powers that are vested in controllers under a civil emergency that I, as mayor, have to sign off on, those powers, in many people's eyes, are quite draconian. And you would normally not want to exercise powers over people, against their will or their wishes, rather than being able to respond to emergency situations where there's life and limb at risk.
That's the state of emergency, and as I say, we're 11 days on. Where do we go from here? What's the next step?
We are now in a state of recovery. The state of civil emergency, unless something untoward happens, will be lifted at 12 p.m. noon tomorrow.
Okay, so just one final question. Last night, the Canterbury Earthquake Response and Recovery Bill was passed in Parliament. How's that going to be affecting the mayors of the three mayors in Canterbury?
My understanding is that the three mayors will be appointed as commissioners for the Canterbury Emergency Recovery Commission. There will be other commissioners on that, and they will be there to oversee the recovery under the new legislation. I do not know the detail in that legislation, but the media releases from central government have been indicative that they want to use its greatest endeavours to get people back into their homes, get employment and businesses up and running again as usual, getting children back to school. I think most of the schools are back today. We're trying to get life back into a normal regime again just as soon as it's possible and safe for the community.
And that's Waimakiriri District Mayor Ron Keating. A commercial sector expert has congratulated the government's $15 million wage subsidy package for small businesses affected by the September 4 quake. CEO of Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, Peter Townsend, says the government's decisive reaction will drastically help Canterbury's recovering economy.
We recommended to government that something be put in place on Monday, and by Thursday people had money flowing into their bank accounts. That's unprecedented from a government support assistance scheme.
Peter Townsend has been the link between Canterbury businesses and the government during the state of emergency. He's now reinforcing the importance of returning to business as usual.
The important thing is for businesses to get up and trading. There are key issues around cash flows and access to buildings and equipment, but once we get through the initial impact of this disaster, then I think the attrition will be relatively small. Canterbury businesses are resilient, they are very hardened, they're used to operating in a tough environment, but there are definitely some businesses that are having significant problems remaining viable and remaining solvent.
But remaining solvent isn't only an issue for businesses, with the government assistance package only offered to firms hiring 20 people or less. For workers like Moss Bowring Scott, it's been a week without pay. He's relying on food parcels.
I work in hospitality in a bar in Sol Square in the kitchen. I was meant to be working the night of the earthquake, and obviously that didn't happen, and it's been closed for about a week, so I'm a week out of work.
Have you been able to claim on the wage subsidy package?
No, because I work in a business that employs more than 20 people, and I think a lot of people are under that boat as well.
And the seas of cash flow certainly have been rough. Moss and his flatmates are without pay this week.
There are a lot of options for people out there who haven't been paid. For example, the Salvation Army is giving out a lot of care packages.
And in so many cases, it is community support groups like the Salvation Army people are relying on for food and supplies. Grace Cocker spoke to Greg Coyle earlier. He's the principal advisor to the Salvation Army here on the ground in Christchurch.
We are having a lot of people coming into our centres. We've got 6 centres operating, and we've also been operating in the big relief centres. The Salvation Army have been providing food and food parcels for people, and also lots and lots of counselling. Massive amounts of food have been donated. We've rented a warehouse and a cool store, and stuff's going in there by the truckload. And we've got trucks, our family store trucks are running backwards and forwards to Linwood Core, and they're putting out food parcels. They put out 190 food parcels yesterday. People are donating pallet loads of vegetables and pallet loads of groceries, and so we're getting the food we need.
So what sort of help have you had from, just say, the Christchurch Council or the government?
The councillors. One of the biggest needs at the moment is counselling. Our workers are getting tired, and we're going to have to stand some of them down and get other people to come and help from other areas, because the Christchurch people are working very hard. So they're going to need to have a rest. Our counsellors can only work 7 days at a time. So we've stood one group down and we've brought another group in, and we'll bring another group in next week and the following week and the following week until we're not needed. But our staff have been very, very stoic and very hard working, and they just, Salvation Army gets its sleeves rolled up and gets stuck in. It doesn't, it worries about other people, not ourselves. Those warehouse boxes, those plastic boxes, we're filling those with items. We call them care items, so it's things like hair shampoo, body lotion, some tissues, some chocolates, some biscuits, some sachets of Milo and fruit drink, and a few apples and a few bits and pieces, all making up a box which we're taking out and just donating to people, just giving it to them. And we're saying, Salvation Army cares, we understand you've been through hell, here is a box of goods for you. And we took the first 200 out to Kaiapoi yesterday, and the staff tell me that about 50% of them were received with tears. So we've got 10,000 of those going out. How do you decide, I guess, who's worthy of a care package? Anyone, any house who's damaged. We're going to the worst areas, and we've got lists of streets that are damaged, and just going along whoever they see, they just give them to.
That's Greg Coyle of the Salvation Army. Stress, pressure and lack of control have been many emotions felt by Cantabrians post-quake. Sadly, though, these emotions have overwhelmed many, with police seeing an increase in domestic violence calls. Grace Cocker reports.
The earthquake is not only affecting the structure of buildings, but also the structure of families. Police and welfare groups have noted a significant increase in domestic violence since the 7.1 earthquake.
What we're getting is about 15 per day, so it's around a 30% increase over the normal period.
Canterbury Women's Refuge is also seeing a dramatic increase, with people calling the helpline for assistance and for a place to escape.
We've had an increase in calls to our crisis line, so we've had about a 30% increase in the number of calls to our crisis line. We did our first admission to our safe house within hours from the earthquake,